Nobody talks about how to run a business while also being a caregiver. This was the first time my dad had any major surgery. I was helping him bathe. I was helping him get up and out of bed. Oh my God, I'm gonna tear. Hold on, let me get it together. And so I woke him up right before New Year's and we brought New Year's in together. It was just dope. So even when you are in these moments, I can't believe I'm crying right now, but I wanted to keep it real with you guys because this has been so hard. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Banking on Cultura. I am your host, Victoria Jen Rodriguez, and I'm coming to you live with another solo episode and a life update. So if you've been following me on the social media streets, you might have seen that my dad has been in the hospital for quite some time. He actually had major back surgery, spinal surgery, on New Year's Eve. So right around Christmas into New Year's Eve is when shit started hitting the fan when it came to my dad. Brought him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks. He just got home this past week. And what day is today? Today's January 23rd. So he went in on December 27th and got home January 21st. So about 3.5 weeks. He was in the hospital. This was the first time my dad had any major surgery or had to stay in a hospital. So it was major, and I experienced a ton. And I wanted to do an episode kind of walking you through what that experience was like, because some of you might have an elderly parent that you're caring for right now, or you might be a caregiver for a sick family member, or you might be just caring for someone else besides yourself. I'm not talking about your kids, I'm talking about an adult that you might be caring for. And a lot of questions have come up when I posted about my dad around how I am managing self-care, what the process looks like from insurance standpoint, from paperwork, from keeping my dad in good spirits, bills, just how life exists while being a caretaker for someone else, especially as an entrepreneur. And so I wanted to do an episode that covered this experience and what it's been like for me, and also hopefully give you some best practices and just some things that you should be considering and thinking about as you are looking at your parents or looking at family members who are getting older, and more likely than not, you will be the person responsible for their well-being and making sure that they are good. So first, I want to start with why it's incredibly important for you to take what I share in today's episode and begin executing on what you can now. It will save you so much anxiety, so much stress, so much overwhelm, even to just educate yourself around how to approach these things. Because I don't know about you, but I've never been trained on this is what you do when you're automatically just become the caregiver for your parents. Normally it happens out of the blue. And so nobody really talks about what that process is like, and how to prepare and how to position yourself for success, essentially, in those circumstances. And so now you're getting the info here, because we really don't talk about those things enough. And it's incredibly important for us to talk about these things, because when you become a caretaker for somebody, it can be incredibly lonely, because you feel like you are the person who is solely responsible for this other human being. And I'm talking about outside of your kids, but to be honest with you guys, so I don't have any kids. And going through this process with my dad really makes me draw so much of an appreciation for parents, because I don't know how you guys do it. It is so much. It is so much to think of somebody else besides yourself in such a selfless way. And when you're doing it for an adult, I think it just makes it that much harder. Or maybe not. It might be easier because, when kids are first born, or maybe it is harder. I don't know, y'all. All I know is that your girl has been through the ringer. the last 3.5 weeks. And so I just want to educate my community about my experience. So once my dad went to the hospital, none of us really knew that he was going to be staying in the hospital, that he was going to need major surgery. None of us really knew about this. So nobody was really prepared, right? And when I mean nobody, I mean me. I was not really prepared for this. And that is what I'm hoping to help you guys with is how to prepare in advance and just share my learnings with you. So here's what I want to start with. I want to start with what you need to make sure that you do to stay happy during this time. And I know that might seem like a far stretch because when you're looking at a loved one or you're caring for a loved one who is going through something health-wise, who is not 100% themselves, it can be depressing for you, right? Because you're used to seeing this person in good spirits. You're used to them being able to take care of themselves. Like, it's just a complete shock. And so it's incredibly important for you to make sure that you are exercising self-care for you. It really is like when you're on a plane and they're like, make sure you put on your, mask first before you give it to someone else, because if you can't breathe, how are you going to be helpful to anyone else? It really is along the same premise as that. You really need to make sure that you are doing what you can to stay strong during this process, because it is emotionally, mentally, soulfully tolling, right? It takes a lot out of you to be able to remain strong, to be able to continue to be a positive light, to just show up, right? And so here are some of the things that I did to help me throughout the last 3.5 weeks to prioritize myself, even while prioritizing my dad, right? And trying to do both at the same time. So first and foremost, staying hydrated, making sure that I'm drinking as much water as possible, and really prioritizing nutrition. To be frank with you guys, one of the ways that I actually deal with stress is I automatically want to binge eat. I want to Netflix and chill. I want to, go get some chips. I want to, have that soul food, right? Because it is comforting. And that did happen. And then I had to remind myself, are you really being helpful in this situation if you're not taking care of yourself, 1,000%? And so towards the latter half is when I started being okay, V, stop the bullshit, stop this. You need to get on point. And so I started to prioritize my nutrition more and staying hydrated. Also, let people help you. If somebody extends help, take it, For me, listen, don't offer your help to me, because I am going to follow up on that. If you say, hey, I got you, you need anything, let me know. Cool. I'm going to be picking up the phone when I need something. So if someone is offering their help to you, and if someone says, hey, reach out, I'm here, take advantage of that. Reach out, because as I mentioned before, it can be incredibly lonely when you become a caretaker for someone. So you want to make sure that you don't force yourself into isolation and almost create this barrier for other people to interact with you, right? Because you will find yourself in your feels. And you will want to just stay in your hole, because you're just holy shit, what the hell is going on? How am I going to manage this? And I knew that was important when right before I took my dad to the hospital. Guys, I was taking care of my dad in ways that I never thought I would before. I saw every single part of my father's body. I was helping him bathe. I was helping him get up and out of bed. I was helping him, just stay in good spirits. I was feeding him. It was just so much that I found myself in moments where I didn't even have the time. I didn't even have the time to call and ask for help. I didn't have the time to step away, because I was just so on and making sure that I was just taking care of everything that he needed and catering to him in that moment. And once I did find a moment to step away, I started to realize wow, I need to step away more. I need to make sure that I'm prioritizing myself more, because you can lose yourself, literally lose yourself in these moments of despair, right? So you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of your tribe and reaching out to people and making sure that you don't just ghost. And also try and schedule some spa days, try and get away as much as possible. And that's why it's important to, like, if somebody's offering you help, say yes. Can you come and like take over for the next couple of hours so that I can have a break? Because it is just so frustrating to be in this spot where you feel like nobody gets it, nobody understands, but that could be just all in your head, right? Because other people are going through a lot of things as well, and they might have been a caretaker themselves, but you would never know that and never be able to take advice from somebody who's been through that if you are not willing to share and if you are not open to just receiving help. All right. Next, I want to get into, how you can keep the person that you are taking care of in good spirits, because part of you keeping them in good spirits is going to keep you in good spirits. So for example, my dad had the major surgery on New Year's Eve. The morning of New Year's Eve. So by the afternoon, he was out of surgery. Thank God it was successful. But, he was going to be spending New Year's Eve in the hospital, which is a bummer, for me as a loved one, but also for him. So it was just like, okay, how can I make sure that this experience doesn't completely suck and that we're celebrating life? Because the fact that he survived that surgery, the fact that he was okay, we need to celebrate that, right? And so I took a whole bunch of decorations and decided to decorate like his bed in the hospital. I got him like a cute hat. I got him glasses. It was adorable. It's on my social media at I am Victoria Jen if you guys want to see the video. I also got props for like his other roomies, and I got props for like the staff, the nurses. So when the ball dropped, he could feel good about it, even though he was like half passed out off of morphine. For the 5 minutes leading into the new year, he was up. And he told me, he's like, Victoria, wake me up. I know this medicine is knocking me out, but wake me up. Oh my God, I'm gonna tear. Hold on, let me get it together. And so I woke him up right before New Year's, and we brought New Year's in together. And it was dope. It was beautiful. And it's like a memory. And then literally for the 3 weeks throughout his stay at the hospital, like he would reference it. He remembered. And I would be showing the video to the other nurses and staff. And it was just dope. So even when you are in these moments, I can't believe I'm crying right now, but I wanted to keep it real with you guys because this has been so hard and so challenging. And we don't, like I said, we don't vulnerably share in this way. So I want to lead by example, which is why I'm doing this. But it was a dope moment for us, and it'll be a memory, right? So figure out those little things that you can do to continue to celebrate life, even though life might look incredibly different. Now that my dad's out the hospital, I'm on his ass. I'm making sure that he's staying hydrated. I'm making sure that his nutrition is prioritized because, hospital food sucks. So of course he's outside now and he's like, oh, get me desserts, get me snacks, get me this. And I'm like, did you have your sea moss today? Did you have fruit today, right? And, when he would snap back at me, I would be like, well, do you want to get better quickly or do you want to prolong this process? And that usually got him back into the swing of things. But nutrition is super important and is the root of many of the ailments in our body. So just making sure that you are constantly pushing that and keeping them in good spirits, especially when they're in the hospital and when they're home. Another thing that I did with him was I said affirmations with him. So, when he was in the hospital, when I visited, we said the affirmations together. When I wasn't there and we were on the phone, I did the affirmations with him. We did breathing exercises together. And it really, really made a difference for him, but also for me, because as I'm speaking to him, I'm speaking to myself, right? And keeping myself positive throughout this experience. So affirmations, breathing exercises. Let me take a drink of this water because, honey, I did not anticipate that I was going to have such a difficult time talking about this. But this is what it is. This is the real life update right now, guys. Okay, so breathing exercises, affirmations, keeping nutrition. They also will need...
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Click on the link above or below this video to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go! Extra TLC during this process. So you need to just have more patience, empathy, and compassion that you ever had in your life. Really, this experience, I say that God works in mysterious ways because it's like my dad going through this experience has forced me to have such an appreciation, first of all, for staff at hospitals, nurses, just everyone in the medical field, but also just have grown such a deep compassion and my empathy for just anyone who is struggling with something as it relates to their well-being and health. That is going to fold over to me as a friend, me as a leader, me as a partner, me as a business person, all the things. And so you have to find the things in these type of experiences. You have to almost look at it as the glass half empty versus half full, or is it the other way around? You have to look at the glass as half full versus half empty, I think it is. Anyway, you guys know what I'm saying. Because you have to almost force yourself to think about, okay, what is the positive out of this? What am I learning from this? How am I growing from this experience? And constantly reminding yourself of that so that you can continue to evolve, because you're going to evolve regardless. Once you decide and sign up to do the selfless task of being a caregiver, you have to think about things in that way. What is the learning here? How am I growing? Okay. So that's super, super important. And there will be moments where you feel helpless, when they feel helpless. And so it's important for you to do whatever you need to do to continue to be the light, continue to show them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and constantly remind them that they will be okay. Again, while you are telling them, hey, you're going to be okay, you're also giving yourself that reaffirmation as well, you're going to be okay, right? And so it's really important for you to do those things. Also, I would say that if you have someone who is staying in the hospital and they're there over weekends, what I noticed is over the weekend, there was less staff than during the week. And there was a shift in the type of care that my father was getting. So you have to make sure that you're advocating for your loved one while they are in the hospital. Because listen, these nurses, they're catering to 50 patients per one nurse. Same thing with the doctors. And so you have to sometimes remind them that, hey, my loved one needs this. Or you have to just be an advocate. Listen, I reached out to patient services. I was on their ass and I was calling every day. Everybody knew my name. My name was on the file because I was we need to make sure that my dad is getting attention, okay? And you need to be an advocate. You need to be an advocate because there's just so much going on. So just make sure that you are being an advocate for them while they are there, because that will also keep them in good spirits, knowing like, okay, I got somebody who cares about me. I got somebody who's going to hold me down. You know, one of the other things that I thought a lot about during this experience that kind of had me like really scared and still does is like, you know, I don't have any kids. I'm single. And I think about like, wow, like who's going to take care of me if God forbid something happens to me? Because wow, I do so much for my dad. Like I couldn't even imagine if he didn't have someone like me in his life right now, like how he would be okay. Of course, there could be people that you can hire, but nobody's going to love you and nobody's going to take care of you the way that, you know, someone who knows you intimately would. You know, there's a difference. And so those are some of the thoughts that I've been thinking about. And I know I'm kind of like jumping around in this episode. It is because it's incredibly hard for me to talk about this with you guys because it's so fresh. But I wanted to do this because we don't talk about it enough. And I want you to know you're not alone if you are dealing with this. So bear with me as I'm like jumping around, y'all. I promise there's good nuggets in here. But yeah, I think about that. I'm like, okay, who the hell is going to take care of me if God forbid something happens to me? And, you know, I'm talking to my sister and she's like, listen, as long as I'm alive, you're going to be good. As long as your nephew's alive, you're going to be good. And then my cute dad, who's like my best friend. So obviously I'm talking to him about it. And he's like, honey, what are you talking about? You're going to figure it out. You're going to have people who take care of you because he's cute like that. But yeah, these are the things you think about when you are dealing with someone in this situation. You start thinking about yourself and you're like, holy shit, like who's going to hold me down or who's going to take care of me? Which leads me to some of the other stuff that comes with being a caretaker outside of just being emotionally and mentally prepared. There are a lot of other things that go into this that you need to also wrap your head around so that you are on top of your game and your loved one is getting the best care and that you are just paying attention. So getting your affairs in order and important paperwork. This is stuff that you should actually start getting now. Don't wait until someone gets sick. Like start getting this paperwork together now. Start getting organized now so that if God forbid something does happen to a loved one, you're prepared, all right? So I'm going to list some of what that paperwork is so that you guys can start preparing or gathering this together if you're in this situation right now. So you want to get a power of attorney, and essentially a power of attorney gives you the right to like their bank records, gives you the right to make financial decisions for them. It gives you the right to do a certain amount of things because you're acting on their behalf, right? If, let's say, for example, they can't talk or if they're immobile, you're able to do things. So, for example, I have a power of attorney for my dad, so I can go to the bank, I can pull out money, I can put in money, I can make financial investments on his behalf, etc. So, power of attorney, you want to have a HIPAA form. A HIPAA form basically gives you the right to have insight into your loved one's medical history and just all of that information, as well as possibly make some decisions for them if you need to from a medical perspective. Also, this HIPAA form is helpful so that if you need to take your loved one to follow-up meetings, or if you need to go see other doctors and they can't speak for themselves, or you just want to inquire about information, you need that HIPAA form in place in order to have access to the information and also share the information with other doctors on your loved one's behalf, right? So for example, my dad has his neurosurgeon who did his spinal surgery. Then we have to go to his primary health doctor. Then his primary needs to know, okay, this is what happens, so that they keep that in mind. So I wouldn't be able to share that information directly with my father's other doctors unless I have that HIPAA form, okay? You also want to see if there's a living will, right? A living will is basically someone who is still living, and they designate certain things that they would like to have handled or how they would like things to be managed while they are living. Any trust documents you want to make sure you have access to, healthcare proxies, property deeds. Do they rent? If not, how much is their mortgage? Like gathering all of this so that you know is going to be incredibly helpful for you. Any retirement accounts, who are the beneficiaries on those retirement accounts, marriage papers or divorce papers, a birth certificate, state issued ID, bank info, making sure you're on the account, any financial investments, do they have retirement plans, a 401k, an IRA, their social security card, any burial information, meaning like how do they want to be buried? Do they want to be cremated? Do they actually want to have like a stone? If so, what would that say? Like all of these difficult conversations that we tend to like not want to have when someone is in good health, because we think like, why do I need to have this conversation? And it's kind of uncomfortable. Like, who wants to talk about death? Like, who wants to talk about, okay, this is what I want to happen if I die, right? Nobody really wants to talk about that, but it's so important for you to talk about it now when your loved ones are in good health so that they can make sound decisions around how they want things to be managed if they find themselves in a position where they can't talk for themselves or they pass, right? You want to have those conversations now. Don't wait. Have the conversation now. Okay, guys? Have the conversation. Make it as natural and as fluid as you talking about something good that happened in your life at the dinner table. Like literally bring it up. And you might get some pushback, right? Because again, this is uncomfortable. But if you approach it with some TLC and love and say, hey, it's important for us to have this conversation because God forbid something happens to you. I just want to make sure that I'm able to fulfill your wishes, right? Position it that way. Who's going to be like, I don't care about my wishes? No, they're going to be like, oh my God, that's so kind. Yes, okay, let's try and have this conversation, right? So have the conversation. Also, the HIPAA form should give you access to any personal medical history. But if your loved one can still talk for themselves, like ask them, hey, what has gone on? Like, what's the latest? I have learned about my father's health and so many things that have happened that I had no idea about going through this process. Because, you know, life be life, and he's not telling me every single thing that he's ever experienced, right? But now he is, because now it's like, I need to know everything. I need to know everything that's going on. So if a doctor's asking me a question, like I know, like I have that information. Some other paperwork you want to have is any government benefits your loved one might be receiving. SSI, are they getting a pension? Any social security benefits, right? So that you have all of that information at your disposal, all right? And this includes their insurance. What type of insurance do they have? What is their insurance card information? What are their ID numbers? What are their prescription lists? This is very, very important. What prescriptions are they currently taking? Let's build out the scenario. God forbid one of your loved ones gets into a car accident and they're incoherent or they go into a coma. How are you going to know, hey, don't give them this because they're allergic to that? Or, hey, they just experienced a major surgery, so keep that in mind. They might not want to be under anesthesia again. Like, you need to know what people are going through, and you need to understand their prescription list so that they aren't given medicine that they shouldn't be given, right? Super, super important to have that information. And my dad has a list, honey. I have like a running list of all his medications, when he takes the medication, why he takes the medication, and all the things. So I'm able to present that if I need to any one of his doctors, right? Because not all doctors are able to communicate with each other, right? That's why you need the HIPAA form. There are laws against that. And so you just need to make sure you're armored up. This is about you being armored up so that you're able to be prepared and you're able to present this information when it is needed. It's also important to have this information if for some reason you need to get a home aide. So a home aide is basically someone who comes to your home to stay with your loved one for a certain amount of hours throughout the day. You might also need a nurse to come to the home and stay with your loved one for a certain amount of hours throughout the day. So that prescription list and their medical history is incredibly important so that you can inform people of what's going on and how they should cater to your loved one. In addition to that, bills. You need to know what are the current bills that they're paying? How much are those bills? Is it rent? When is the rent due? Are they renting a car? Are they leasing a car? Are they financing a car? Right? All of these things. my dad, thank God, he's so sharp. His mind is so sharp that he literally got out of surgery and he's like, hey, my rent is due on this date, or my cable bill, don't forget to pay it, because he loves his TV, okay? He's like, don't forget to pay it, my electricity bill is due on this date. Like, he knows when everything is due. But what if he couldn't talk, right? What if he couldn't talk? Then we would be asked out. We wouldn't even know like what he currently bills, what he currently pays, like what his bills are. So you want to just make sure that you are informed. And the best way for you to keep all of this information together, because it is so much information, is you want to have kind of like a folder. So I have a folder of all the important paperwork that I need. So like the power of attorney, social security card. I have the paperwork of, any documents that I need, like his lease, any social security that he's getting, any pension, any of that. I have it all in a folder. His medical history, everything is all in a folder, so that if I ever need that information, boom, I have everything in the folder and I'm organized and I'm good to go. I also keep a running list in my notes app of everything that I am covering for him right now, because when you become a caretaker, you're also their secretary, right? I am yielding calls on a daily basis, for this man regarding insurance, regarding doctor's appointments, follow-up appointments that we need to do, right? Keeping family members informed of, hey, what's going on, all the things. So you want to have that running list in your notes section so that you are just keeping yourself organized, and you have important numbers, right, of people that you need to reach out to, agencies that you need to call and work with, all the phone numbers for the hospital that they might be staying at. Like, y'all, I had the phone numbers for all of his nurses. I have the phone numbers for all of his physical therapists. I have the number to all the major departments at the hospital. I have the number to his insurance. I have the number to his caseworker. I have the number to the person at the insurance that's handling the case. Like, there's just so many moving things happening at once that you want to make sure that you are super organized, because it will save you so much anxiety and time while you are going through this process. And you're also going to be asked kind of like the same questions over and over again. So what I also include in my notes app is like my dad's social security number, his date of birth, his complete address, all of these, the pins for his debit card, access codes, like all of that, so that I don't have to continuously ask him, because I know these questions are going to come up. Also, make a copy of the keys for your loved one's apartment if they're living on their own. Have a copy of the keys. Like, I have a copy of the keys for my dad's place. I have access to his garage. I have access to his mailbox, like literally everything, so that I can have everything coordinated and managed in his absence. So get those keys now, because you might need to pick them up when they fall. I've had to have people go to my father's home and like pick him up because he fell right before he had the surgery. And if we didn't have a spare copy of his keys, how is he going to let us in? He can't get to the door, right? How is he going to let us in? He can't get to the door. So you want to have a copy of keys at your disposal, so that you are able to just have everything. And I think I covered pretty much all the things, but I'm pretty sure I'm leaving stuff out. I'm actually looking at my notes right now, because I was like, okay, I want to make sure like I cover everything for these folks and make sure I don't leave anything out, because there's just so many details that went into this. So in summary, you want to make sure that you just get your affairs in order and you have all the important paperwork that you need that is associated with anyone's life, basically. So everything, all the paperwork that you have for your life, use that as an example. You're going to need the same things for your loved one, so that you have all that information, insurance, bills, and making sure that you're staying organized. And most importantly, making sure that you are exercising self-care and you are getting your escapes, right? And finding time for you. I am really looking forward to when I can go on vacation. because I actually was supposed to be out of the country for New Year's. That was the plan. The plan was to be out of the country for New Year's. But, all of that got pushed to the side once Daddy went into the hospital. And all I can think about now, it being 3.5 weeks later, is like, I cannot wait to go away. I did snap tickets to the Bad Bunny concert. Shout out to my girlfriend Liz, who stayed in the queue for hours in order to lock in our tickets for the Bad Bunny concert in August in Puerto Rico. So I am very much looking forward to that. But that's all the way in August. And I told my dad, I'm like, listen, I need you to get good, and I need you to get good quick, honey, okay? Because your girl need to be outside, all right? She need to be outside. And I know that may feel like yucky and almost like you begin to feel a little guilty, because it's like, damn, how am I going outside when my loved one is suffering so much, or they can't go outside? Like, how selfish of me. You will feel that guilt. It is a very normal thing to feel the guilt, but you have to remember that you are not good to anyone if you are not good to yourself. And you deserve to still live. Like, you deserve to still live, even though your loved one might be experiencing this. Like, if they're bedbound, it doesn't mean you need to be bedbound. If they have to, stay inside the home all day, doesn't mean you need to stay inside the home all day. If they can't walk, doesn't mean you're not walking, right? If they can't eat certain foods, doesn't mean you can't eat certain foods. Like, I found myself almost like adapting to like the things my dad couldn't do just so that he wasn't alone, or just because I was there with him, right? So you kind of like, whoever you're spending the most time with, that's kind of like who you begin to emulate. And I had to like snap out of it, because I'm like, wait, like, I'm not bedbound. Like, I could still walk. Like, why the hell am I not getting up and taking a walk? You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that you are constantly prioritizing yourself and reminding yourself to prioritize yourself. And I gotta shout out my health coach, Marquise, who is like, has just become an incredible safe space for me, because like, when I don't talk to him for a couple of days, he'll reach out and be like, why are you not talking to me? Like, don't disappear. What is happening? And you need those people in your life to remind you, like, hey, you're still alive and well. Like, what's going on? Like, don't stop paying attention to you. Like, what's happening? Because it's really easy, again, to just sink. It really is easy to just sink, because it is an incredibly depressing experience, like, to have someone who is so full of life to no longer be full of that same life. It kind of like, like a stab in the heart a little bit. But thankfully, Daddy is getting better each day. I knew my dad was getting better when we were in the hospital, and he was telling me how the nurses were telling him that he was a papi chulo back in the day, that they can tell, and that he looked sexy with his beard. Like, that's what I knew. Like, okay, little by little, he's coming back to himself. And that was making me feel good. But of course, he's not 100%. But he still has his personality. He still has his gravitas and energy that he brings to spaces. Like, all of the nurses fell in love with him, all of them. He got so much love, and that has even carried over at home. Like, all of his neighbors are checking in on him, making sure that he's good. Like, Daddy is loved, and that really makes me happy to know that. And I can't wait until he is back to his old self again, as far as the way that seems, but he will be back to his old self again. And, imagine what it's like going through that experience, like, yourself. Like, when like, my dad is 82 now. And, obviously him going through this major thing, he's thinking to himself, like, holy shit, like, is this the end? Like, is this what it's boiling down to? Or also just the realization that one day he may be completely dependent on other people in order to just survive and continue to survive. And that's like really, really scary. So knowing that, that's why it's so important for you to take care of you, so that when you are around them, like, you just have this energy, like, you're just positive, you're just, a light, you're just reminding them, like, hey, it's going to be okay. telling them they don't need to apologize if, they need you to, wipe their booty. Like, you need to make sure that you're making it as easy as possible for them to heal and for them to get better, because in the long run, that's just going to help you, right? Because you're going to have your ease of mind and heart knowing that they're okay. So you just want to do everything in your power to fast track to okay land so that you are able to keep going. The other thing I wanted to touch upon was, dealing with this while also running your business. Because nobody talks about how to run a business while also being a caregiver. That shit is hard. It is so, so hard. And you have to make tough decisions. Like, there were moments where I had to cancel meetings. I had to push back meetings. I had to let people know, like, hey, I'm not okay. This is what's going on. I will circle back with you once I'm in a better headspace. And, entrepreneurship is one of those things where, what you kill is what you eat. And so when you find yourself no longer killing because you're stuck on taking care of someone else, right? You're not hunting anymore. It's kind of like, oh, wow. It forces you to think about your business model, thinking about how you spend your time. It forces you to think about your processes and systems that you have in place, because it really pushes you to the forefront of what happens to you, right? What will happen to your business, right? If something happens to you, what will happen to your business, right? And so this has really like forced me to think about those things. I've always thought about those things before, but now it's like getting real. You know what I mean? Now it's like, okay, how am I really going to do this if I still, have to be a caretaker for my dad in this time? And shout out to all my clients who have been incredibly understanding and just so supportive and just beautiful people during this time. And that's how I know that I'm talking to the right people in my marketing and in my branding and just the people that I choose to work with. That's how I know that I'm on the right path, because they are so understanding and because they are so supportive. But it is a business at the end of the day. So I also know, like, I can't drag this out. Like, I have to have solutions, right? But at least I have the space to think about, okay, what are those solutions? And I'm also very thankful to be financially in a position where I can take the time to think about these things, where I can say, no, I'm not working today, right? And really manage my time however I want to or however I need to. And it's incredibly important for you to consider this, especially right now with this new administration, with the next 4 years and what life is going to look like, and the life that you want to live, and how incredibly important it is for you to really focus and think about, okay, how am I making money in this moment? How am I making the most money in this moment? How am I saving the most money in this moment? Because it's one thing to make money, but it's another thing to save the money for a rainy day, right? Which is what's helping me right now, right? I have a stash that's holding me down. Then I'm like, all right, like, I'm good. I could take some time. I plan for this rainy day, right? So shout out to entrepreneurship to, really allow me to make those decisions. I don't have to ask a boss, hey, can I take time off? My loved one is in the hospital, or I need to take a sabbatical. I don't need to have conversations I don't want to have, or share personal details of my life that I don't want to have, unless I want to do it, right? But if I was working for an employer, like, I would have to provide some type of explanation. But what if I didn't rock with anybody there and I didn't want to tell them my personal business, right? So
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Click on the link above or below this video to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go. Shout out to entrepreneurship, but also what if they only gave me, 2 weeks? Yes, we'll give you 2 weeks so you can handle all your family matters and then you have to return to work. Like that wouldn't work, right? It's been 3.5 weeks so far that I've had to, kind of cater my life around my dad. Shout out to entrepreneurship. But mainly the key takeaway here is position your life in a way where you can truly live life on your terms and you can move as you please. And that only comes with you being financially secure and you being mentally, emotionally, physically healthy, and you being smart about how you are showing up every day, how you are extending your thought leadership, how you are making money, how you are inserting yourself in certain rooms, etc. Really think about it, y'all. Really think about the life that you want to live and really think about these scenarios. In business, they think about these scenarios, right? Like, what if the world goes to shit? What's going to happen then? What if Trump gets elected? What's going to happen then? Okay, what if this bill gets tossed out? What's going to happen then? What if there's a tsunami? What's going to happen then, right? You play out these scenarios in business all the time. You have to do that for your life too. Play out the scenario. What if I get sick? What's going to happen? What if I become a caretaker for someone? What's going to happen? What if I lose my leg? What's going to happen? Like playing out the scenarios so that you are prepared, which all that paperwork that I was telling you to get in place for your loved one, like get those in place for yourself as well. Right? Like who's going to make decisions for you if God forbid something happens, right? Who's going to have that authority? Who should be in your living will? What do you want them to do, right? Who is your beneficiary for your retirement accounts? Like getting your own shit together is just as important in getting all the information for your loved one. All right, y'all, this was a heavy episode and I really appreciate you listening and for you tuning in. I hope you found this helpful. I hope that there were things that you can pull from this to apply to your own life. But please don't wait. Don't wait until something happens for you to really pay attention. And I'm speaking from experience because I knew all of these things. Like for the paperwork, I knew some of the things that I needed to have in place, and I would talk to my dad about it, but I just didn't do it. And if I had done it, I wouldn't have to do it now, right? I could have done it then, and then I would have been good. Like a power of attorney you can get at any time. A HIPAA form you can get at any time, right? There are certain things that you can get access to and just have paperwork in place so that you don't have to worry about it when your loved one is suffering. You can just focus on that and focus on yourself and making sure that you're prioritizing you versus like the administrative stuff, like the paperwork and all that jazz. So just get it done. That is the theme for today's episode. Just get it done. Just do it. Okay, y'all? I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you're gonna love the next one. So make sure to click right here and tap in to the next episode.